Good afternoon. Welcome to this press conference following the extraordinary meeting of the Subcommittee on Human Rights dedicated to the situation of women's fundamental rights in Afghanistan. I will straight give the floor to Mr. Munir Satouri, the chair of the subcommittee, and his guests. Mr. Satouri, please.
I'll try and keep it brief because time is running away with us. First of all, I'd like to underline that the initiative for this delegation was aimed to represent all ethnic groups in Afghanistan. We think that is vital to rebuild an Afghanistan, an alternative Afghanistan, where the different ethnic communities live together in peace and can plan a positive future together. The political message that I would like to bring and that we've tried to put on the table is that the EU will help protect Afghan refugees. The situation of women in the country and in neighbouring countries is a disaster, and the EU must take its responsibilities to protect those people. We will put in the resolution the deplorable apartheid applied by the Taliban at the moment, and you'll have the opportunity to say this. We must not normalise relations with that regime. It's not a regime like any other, and whatever the reason, whatever the arguments, the European Union, given its values and principles, should not normalise its relationship with the regime. And I'll give you the floor straight away. I'm really delighted you're here so that you can speak to the European press.
Good evening. Thank you so much. First of all, our solidarity is with all the victims from war, particularly with the people of Palestine. And around the globe, those African countries that people are losing their life. Today I'm here to echo what is the situation of Afghan women inside of Afghanistan. I do understand the international media have been occupied by Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, but there's also another catastrophe where affecting more than 40 million population in this earth. Just simply the country where 3 years back was your allies, 3 years back standing with you, 3 years back Afghans work under your flag, and your flag was wrapping inside of that country. We cannot forget simply they are human. And the Afghan women's situation inside of Afghanistan and also outside of Afghanistan is not really pleasant. Why? We've been through so much. We are in the stage that inside of our country, even we are not counting as a human being. The lack of recognition of human rights, the lack of any kind of legal document between citizen and state, and the systematic erase of Afghan women from the society, which is, I simply call it gender apartheid in Afghanistan. It's screaming very loud. The situation of the children in Afghanistan is also not very good situation. And if you see overall the picture of a country where have been paid millions of lives without knowing why, it's time for us to stand with the values that European Union, European Parliament believe and trust on. It's time to pay back the good friendship and the shared efforts we made in Afghanistan. It's time to restore back justice and equality for a nation where today they don't have a voice. It's time to be voice of them, voice of those speechless people where they cannot reach anywhere. It's time to give a clear picture out of geopolitical and political policies or individual. It's time to do not compromise with anyone about the rights of women, neither in Afghanistan, neither in any part of the world. So this is my message for you. I'm a woman. For 27 years, I worked during the first Taliban inside of Afghanistan. I lost my 2 kids, and still after 27 years of effort, putting my life and my kids' life in danger, still I'm asking for the rights of education. Still I'm asking to be counted as a human being in my country. Still I'm looking for a government to represent my people. Still I'm asking for justice. Is that justice? Is that what is 21st century? Is that what we should be? I think it's time for every citizen in the globe to wake up and stop the war machine, stop the extremists, stop any fight under the name of race, religion, country, geography, poor and wealth. Our blood is not white, it's red. We are also human, same as you are. I also have a daughter, which is she likes to be educated. She wants to work. She wants to raise her kids inside of Afghanistan. But those are just a dream. I have students, more than 1,000 inside of Afghanistan, that daily basis they ask me, Professor, when the things will change, when we will go to university, when we will go back to our normal life. It's been 3 years. And this is the time we want to see action. Action from those nations, individuals, organizations, and collective efforts, such as European Parliament, to stand for the rights of Afghan under the name of humanity, to stand with the rights of human rights globally and generally, without any discrimination. We shouldn't politicize human rights anymore. Humans are human, no matter if it's Jew, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, or whatever. We should respect the human dignity, and this is the time that we should say to the world that all those international conventions are not piece of show. Those international conventions was made efforts to make this earth to be a better place to live. Those convention is about equality. Those convention is about human rights. Those convention is about this new modern world and about globalization. And let's prove we are not playing politics with other rights. Thank you.
When I went to Afghanistan during the Taliban in 2022, I went to connect with the women rights activists. I saw brave Afghan women without anything, without even any financial support, they have been basically ripped off all their rights, but they still were gathering, going out on the streets, standing in front of a complete soldier with weapons and saying, I demand my rights. That kind of courage is what has made my voice louder in here. And I promised them that we will not forget them. We will not let the world forget them. And when I told them, do you really believe when you stand and say, I want my rights, that he will give you that? The answer was no. They're not communicating with the Taliban. They're communicating with us who promised them to stand by them. The world who completely left them alone all of a sudden, but they have not given up. We are not asking just to help us. We are saying partner with us. We are taking the lead. We are fighting inside and outside Afghanistan, but we cannot fight it without the support of us who believe in human rights, us who call ourselves women rights activists, human rights activists. I know times will change because it always does, and we will make sure that it does. And there will be few who will be able to still call themselves human rights activists. Let's stand on the right side of history and help us, support us to also codify gender apartheid as a crime in the international law. Let's make a collective campaign against gender apartheid, because that will help us keep Taliban, and not just Taliban, but anywhere where it's happening gender apartheid. For example, also in Iran, it will give us a tool to be able to bring them to the court. Thank you.
Thank you. I have say something shortly. Who I am standing here. I am the one woman from Afghanistan. on that country, the women are removed systematically from the society. They are not go to the school. They are not go to the work. They are not go to the society. And they are not systematically, they removed for the society. And just, I'm calling for the European Union and the world and the human rights activists and the human rights committee and the who and which countries support the human rights. Please stand behind of the Afghan women, because the Afghan women should lead their country, and the Afghan women, they are the alternative of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is difficult for me to address only one problem that Taliban committed in Afghanistan. However, since 3 years, Taliban committed dozens, hundreds, thousands cases, human rights violations in Afghanistan. Taliban are corrupted groups. Taliban are doing corruption. Taliban committed war crime. Taliban committed humanity crimes. And Taliban violated human rights in Afghanistan. Afghanistan signed the numbers of treaties in the past. Unfortunately, since Taliban came to the power, they broke all the treaties. Afghanistan was joined with anti-torture convention. Unfortunately, since Taliban came, they never respect for the anti-torture convention. They arrest the protesters, they imprison the protesters, and they killed many people with torture inside of the prison. Taliban doing gender apartheid. They never respect for the CEDAW convention or convention. Taliban broke all the regulation to respect all the convention that Afghanistan signed. I think that if possible, establish an international monitoring mechanism through the UN and European Union to document human rights violation against women in Afghanistan. This could lead to accountability measures and further pressure to the Taliban. Thank you very much.
A couple of ideas. Keep the view of alternatives for Afghan people. That needs to be one of our responsibilities. Trust in the Afghan people, because one of the failures over the last 20 years or more has been that Western countries, the US and others, have tried to choose an alternative government. Now, the situation in Afghanistan is complex, different religions and different ethnic groups. But we need to take on our responsibilities everywhere in Afghanistan and elsewhere amongst the diaspora. We need to work towards a dialogue, co-construction, towards an alternative politics, and support the opposition to the Taliban on the ground. And we have a specific responsibility in protecting the Afghan people. In Iran and Afghanistan and elsewhere, there are opponents to the Taliban who have fled death going there, but are still persecuted. We need to take our responsibilities by taking them in. I've heard from the various political groups here, right to left, even extreme right, saying that the Taliban is terrible. If they're terrible, then we should give asylum to people that are fleeing them. When the Kabul regime fell, when the US went, the Europeans didn't know what to do, and on the ground, while I was online, we knew that people were saying, well, they're going to come now. How can I get out? and our ambassadors on the ground have no capacity to support them. One of our responsibilities is to help get the opponents out, protect those who are out, and help those that have come to Europe to live here. There are young Afghan people who can't get into university to carry on their studies, so that's something we can do. And I would like to put that across, that plea within the EEP to all members, that it should be an honour for us in the EP. If we want to help the Afghans, then we can support their initiatives, but our responsibility, we need to take that on board.